So today I'm going to show you how to use Google MyMaps. I'm not going to talk about everything you can do with it, but hopefully enough that you can start one for your class and implement a lesson using it. I've used it a few times. You can see some of the maps I've already built with some of my classes, and it's just a really great visual tool and a great use of technology. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to set one up. So I've already started one. I've called it Sydney Sightseeing. So I'll open that up and you can see already some place markers. They have different colors and I'll go through that in a minute. And it's because they're under different categories. I've got my title here, Sydney Sightseeing. I've made it clear for the students what they're doing. And on the side here, I have different categories, museums and leisure. These are what we call layers. I can turn them off and on. So if I don't really feel like going to museums, I can turn that off and off as I please. The same with leisure. Okay, so what I'm looking for. I'm going to start a new category now. So the way I do that is I add a layer. So I'm essentially adding a new map. It's like a transparent piece of paper, and then it's like I'm drawing X's on that piece of paper and placing it over the main map, which is the map of Sydney. So I add a layer. There we go. I give it a title, and I'll give it a title when it opens. There we go. Places to eat. Excellent. Now, when you're doing this with your class, there may be specific information that you want the students to put in. So what you have to do is you have to prepare that before the lesson, and you do that by creating a Google spreadsheet. And here I have everything that I want the students to write into the map. I'll show you how that works in a minute. You can see all the categories here. What I have to do is press this import button, and all that data that I want to be written in will be imported as categories. I'll show you in a minute how it works. It'll make more sense in a minute. Okay, so this is to position our place mark. So the address in the suburb tells us where we are, and a title to your markers. So I'm going to choose the name, and I press finish. Yep, and it's loaded. Excellent. So to place this on the map, what you have to do is you have to pick the correct layer. Make sure it's not on museums, leisure. Make sure it's on places to eat. And I'm going to do Granville. That's the best one. Eljana Granville. And then what I have to do is I have to add it to map. Press this plus, and you can see it's turned up under places to meet. If it turns up in the wrong category, you can always move it. I'm going to leave it there. I type in the address. Now the address is useful. I know it's in this section here for these purposes, but sometimes you'll have an activity where you might be locating something, except it's not actually in Google My Maps. So the students have to physically put in the address as a place marker. I had that for one of my activities the other day. So it's important to still have this address and suburb as part of your data. I'm going to rate it. I know there's a rating here, but get the students, if you're going to do ratings, get them to do it themselves. I'm going to rate it 5. What you can do, drown in garlic sauce. And I get the students to put their name in so I know who's done it. You can add a photo. Oh yeah. Oh no. This one looks so good. There we go. Select. There we go. So I've got a photo of the food. Oh, it's decided not to turn up. Okay. There are different ways you can put in photos. I usually do Google image search because there are so many photos up there. There we go. Oh, 2 of the same photo. Double the delight. Okay, save. Excellent. So now I've saved that and it's in there. You can see here that the place marker is quite boring, and I can change that by pressing this style button. It's like a paint bucket. There's a food button here, and I'm going to make it green. Excellent. If I need to edit it, you just press the edit button. You can add more photos. You can even add directions, but that's beyond the scope of what I'm going to show you today. Okay, so you can see these different layers. I'm just going to zoom out and go to museums. There are some really nifty things you can do with Google My Maps. One of the things here is you can see that all the museums, they have different place markers, and especially when you have students doing this while they're building the map, this can tend to happen, but you can actually change it. Here it says individual styles, so each one of them has a different icon. So I'm going to change it, and it's going to be a uniform style, so every single one has the same one. And I've changed it to a museum symbol, and it's all a museum symbol, and it's all the same color, so it's always uniform. Whenever they put in a museum, it will always be the same. Okay, so a few last things. I would set this up for my students like this, and then you have to share it. So you press this share button. At the moment it's private. I can change that, and anyone with the link can edit. And you save, and then you put that into their classroom or email or whatever. So here are some maps that one of my classes built earlier. It's natural disasters around the world, and you can see the different disasters they've mapped and the information they've put on. So I just put this on the screen, and they could see themselves mapping as they went along. Donald Trump building a wall is a great disaster, and Walmart went out of food. Okay, so one good thing about Google Maps is that you can open the data table and you can see what mistakes they've made. Great. That's why it's not registering, because he's decided to put more than a country there. And now it's in place. Now it's suddenly appeared. So you can fix their data if you're bothered. This is what it looks like if I preview it. So they can actually search for a disaster, so they can look for a flood or a storm. And they can look up the disaster, and all the information they've put in comes up here. So the cost, the death toll, everything. I found that the kids have been really engaged using this, and it's a great way for them to enter into data and see it visually. So hopefully you can use it too.